Are you looking for the best CPU? In this video we will look at some of the best CPU. Before we get started with our video, we have included links in the description. So make sure you check those out to see which one is in your budget range. Number 1. AMD Ryzen 7 9800X 3D. The AMD Ryzen 7 9800X 3D is the top contender for the best gaming CPU due to its massive L3 cache enabled by 3D V-Cache technology. This large cache provides a significant performance boost in games by storing frequently accessed data for quicker retrieval. In our 9800X 3D review, the processor delivered a best-in-class performance in all games we tested, completely beating the previous king of gaming, the 7800X 3D, and even outperforming flagships like Core Ultra 9 285K and Ryzen 9950X. For example, in CS2, we were constantly getting over 600 FPS at 1080p. For reference, the 7800X 3D and 9700X were all the way back in the mid-300s. Even in Cyberpunk 2077, the 9800X 3D offered the most frame rates at 334 FPS. Along with that, the 9800X 3D can also be overclocked. When we enabled PBO, we saw a good boost in both gaming and productivity benchmarks. Speaking of which, AMD's architectural changes with the 9800X 3D, including using a 4nm process node, have finally given it a good bump in synthetic tests, as the CPU showed good results in single-core benchmarks. Overall, you can't deny the numbers, and it is very clear that there is simply no other CPU that can beat the Ryzen 7 9800X 3D in gaming. As such, if you want the most frame rates, this is a no-brainer choice. Just make sure you pair it with the best motherboard and the best cooler for a smooth experience. Number 2. Intel Core i9-13900K. The Intel Core i9-13900K is a beast for gamers seeking top-tier performance and our top pick for the best Intel CPU for gaming. This CPU packs enough power for even the most demanding tasks. And in our Intel i9-13900K review, we found it to be a solid choice for resource-hungry applications. It wields high clock speeds, reaching 5.8 GHz, and a massive 24 cores, dividing into 16 performance cores and 8 efficiency cores, to deliver smooth gameplay and the ability to handle heavy multitasking, which is important for gamers. The 13900K benefits from the latest Raptor Lake architecture, edging out even AMD's Ryzen 7950X in some games. Plus, it supports DDR5 memory, the cutting edge for even faster performance. Lastly, while we prioritize gaming in this guide, the Intel Core i9-13900K is also excellent for creative tasks, making it the best versatile CPU on this list. If Intel is your go-to place for CPUs, then this may just be the product for you. As far as its performance is concerned, we tested the 13900K in CS2, Cyberpunk 2077, Days Gone, and Resident Evil Village. In the first game, we were getting 185 FPS with everything set to low at 1080p. In the second and third game, the FPS was around 342 and 261, respectively. And finally, in Resident Evil, the CPU was able to hit 351 FPS. Keep in mind the i9-13900K isn't perfect. The price tag is hefty, and its high power draw demands a strong power supply unit and good cooling. Additionally, for pure gaming, the extra efficiency cores might be underutilized, making the slightly cheaper i7-13700K a more attractive option. Number 3. AMD Ryzen 9 7900X 3D. It may seem odd to pick the AMD Ryzen 9 7900X 3D as a mid-range pick, but let's explain. For specific gamers on a tighter budget, it can be a strategic choice. This CPU prioritizes pure gaming muscle. Its massive L3 cache, thanks to 3D V-Cache technology, acts like super-fast storage for game data, leading to significant performance boosts in games that rely on it heavily. In fact, the 7900X 3D's focus on cache allows you to potentially save elsewhere in your build. Because it relies less on high clock speeds, you might be able to get away with a cheaper motherboard and cooler compared to a traditional high-clocked CPU. This can make the overall build more affordable as a whole. We reviewed the Ryzen 9 7900X 3D and were amazed by its gaming performance. It was able to deliver 168 FPS in Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p with the graphical settings set to low, and 178 FPS in Death Stranding. Its productivity performance was also pretty decent, as we got big scores in several benchmarking tools. However, this strategy hinges on prioritizing pure gaming performance. If you do demand multitasking, the lower clock speeds might be a bottleneck. Additionally, you need to find the 7900X 3D at a competitive price. If the price difference between it and a traditional mid-range CPU is significant, the cost savings on other parts might not make up for it. Whether you have money in mind or not, this CPU still delivers solid specs and features and will handle most modern titles with ease. Number 4. Intel Core i5-13600K. Our first pick for budget-conscious users is the Intel Core i5-13600K, which is truly a game-changer for gamers looking to cut costs. Forget the hefty price tags of the 7950X3D or the Intel Core i9-13900K. This processor still manages to provide more than enough power to make a difference. In our i5-13600K review, we found it to be a great affordable option for gaming. It boasts 6 powerful cores capable of reaching impressive clock speeds of up to 5.4 GHz. This translates to smooth, stutter-free gameplay that rivals even more expensive CPUs. Packed with 24 MB of L3 cache, this card doesn't show any signs that it falls behind in terms of performance. Additionally, 13600K isn't just about affordability. It keeps pace with the latest technology, too, like DDR5 memory, meaning you can enjoy the benefits of next-gen tech while staying within your budget. For our review, we tested it in Cyberpunk 2077 and Elden Ring, where the average FPS was 179 and 162, respectively. In games like CS:GO and GTA 5, we were getting 353 and 186 FPS. However, we like to provide well-rounded reviews, so let's talk a little about the downsides of this product. It uses more power than its predecessor, meaning you'll need a beefier PSU. The extra power also translates to hotter temperatures, so a good CPU cooler is essential. Upgrading might be trickier down the line as the motherboard socket might limit future CPU options without a motherboard replacement. It is good to keep this in mind when purchasing CPUs that are not top of the range/older gen. Number 5. AMD Ryzen 7 9700X. Tight on budget but want to remain in Team Red? Well, in this case, we'd recommend the AMD Ryzen 7 9700X. This is a fantastic choice for budget-minded gamers, and we think that it's easily one of the best budget AMD CPUs for gaming. We reviewed the Ryzen 7 9700X and found it to be a great option for multiple tasks. The 9700X is a part of the AMD 9000 series lineup, so it is built on the latest Zen 5 architecture. On top of that, it boasts the 4nm process technology, so it comes packed with plenty of transistors. What does this mean? Well, better and smoother performance in multiple tasks. In our tests, the 9700X managed to hit 856 points in the CPU-Z single-core test, which went up to 8,199 points in the multi-core test. On the other hand, in Cinebench, the scores were 2,297 and 20,184. For comparison, its predecessor, the 7600X, scored 1,995 and 19,650 points. This processor has 6 cores and 12 threads, which is pretty decent. Its base and boost clock speeds are 3.8 GHz and 5.5 GHz, respectively. Thanks to these specs, it should deliver smooth performance in modern titles and even productivity software. You might be thinking that a processor that packs such features will have a high TDP. Well, you're wrong. This is because the 9700X has a TDP of only 65W, which is rare to see in processors that offer similar specs. This means that you won't have to worry about investing in a top-tier PSU to power it. However, we'd still recommend getting one of the best PSUs for 9700X to keep your components safe. On top of that, to make sure it stays cool even under constant stress, you should opt for one of the best CPU coolers for the 9700X. Overall, the 9700X provides great value for money. Its core/thread count, clock speeds, and low TDP make it worth every single penny.